Zakary Pelaccio is an award-winning chef and one of New York's culinary pioneers. He helped establish trends like nose-to-tail cooking and local sourcing of ingredients.
He also brought Southeast Asian cuisine into the New York mainstream with popular restaurants like Fatty Crab and Fatty Q. And he's now co-owner and co-chef of Fish and Game in the lovely riverside town of Hudson, New York. Chef Zach Pelaccio, welcome to The Dish.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
This looks really great. What is this here?
Well, we have a mix of things here. This is sort of a collaboration between my wife Jory and I, who work upstate in Hudson, New York at Fish and Game restaurant. When asked, what would you like to eat and what would you like to cook for the dish? You know, we said we need to roast a whole animal of some sort. And we need to do it with salted chilies. Jory's big into preserving this summer. So these chilies were preserved from last summer when we had chilies growing in our garden. So we serve them with roasted chicken. I think my preference might be rabbit, but you know, chicken seemed to be a little bit more acceptable for the masses. We have roasted carrots here. They're glazed with our maple syrup. This is actually the 2014 maple syrup that we tap our sugar maples in two. We have two properties in upstate New York, and we tap our sugar maples. We glaze the carrots with maple syrup and our own cultured butter from a restaurant.
And you get all your food locally up there.
We buy, I'd say, 90% of our food from Columbia County, which is the county in which Hudson exists.
I want to ask you about your path into being a chef, because you were sort of one of the people that was always around it. When did you decide to actually say, I want to be a chef? You
know, I always used to cook for my friends throughout college. I was always cooking for my buddies. You know, we wouldn't go to the mess hall. You know, we wouldn't go to the cafeteria. We'd end up cooking in our dorm room. And then when we moved out of the dorms into a house, we had a grill. And I was the one who was always designated the cook. I think it started with my mother, really. I guess it's appropriate that it's Mother's Day is coming up. But she, you know, she raised me on cooking from scratch. She always had a garden. We grew up in Westchester. There was always a garden in the backyard. So there was always eggplant, zucchini, tomatoes growing.
And this dish is an ode to your mother, which I had never heard of spaghetti pie before.
Right. You know, you guys had asked me, we said Mother's Day is coming up. Is there something that, in particular, that your mother used to make for you that you're fond of? And when I was young, you know, it was leftover spaghetti. And then if the night before we had a dish with spaghetti in it, we didn't eat it all. She'd save it. It's basically a frittata. It's eggs, cheese, a little bit of guanciale, which is cured pork jowl, black pepper, and some salt, and a little bit of olive oil.
You had a stint as a writer and producer at the Food Network, right?
That's right.
How did you ultimately decide to get serious about cooking?
You know, it was tough. After I graduated from college, I didn't take the profession of chef that seriously because I knew I had to stand up all the time, work with fire, sharp knives, and you know, like screaming Frenchmen. And I was like, this sounds like a horrible career. But it was, you know, this sort of gravitational pull. I was always sort of, you know, on the periphery, right? Well, not always, but in the beginning, post-college, I was on the periphery, and it just kept pulling me back in, and I had to be involved with food, you know, and I danced around working with the Food Network and doing some other jobs that weren't directly involved with the kitchen, and I finally just jumped right in.
How did you go from, because I think most chefs we have here usually have one thing that they're amazing at. You went from Southeast Asian to barbecue and now to Fish and Game. So what has the transition been like for you?
Well, this Fish and Game is the most personal restaurant that I've opened. I think it's because it's truly representative of Jory and our other co-chef, Kevin Pomplin, and myself. And the way that we cooked on the weekends, it's sort of, we took our weekend lifestyle and turned it into our full-time lifestyle. We were working in the city since 2005, weekending in the Hudson Valley. And that converted into a full-time gig. So we decided to make our move and eat food that we grew ourselves. Now we're running 2 farms upstate that service the restaurant. And we have a ton of local farmers that we've built relationships with. So I know exactly where each chicken, each pig, the chilies, the garlic, et cetera, come from.
Well, I want to hand you this dish, and as we hand it to you to get your signature on it, we want to ask you if you could have this meal with anyone, past or present, and don't feel obligated to say your mom. Who would that person be?
You know, I mean, I think that there are so many different people, but I would say I'd give you 2 choices. Either A.J. Liebling, who is a famous gourmand, you know, and just because I'd love to drink all day with him, and we'd probably eat chicken, goose, duck, and a whole lamb, or Sigmund Freud, probably.
Good,
you know,
because Chef Zach, thank you so much. And for more on Zach Pelaccio and the dish, head to our website at CBS This Morning.